Let's go on to federal politics now, cross up to Queensland and catch up with the Nationals leader, David Littleproud. David, a question without notice. I won't get into the specifics because you won't have been brought across it, but you, especially as someone who represents the regions, know how valuable the ABC is to the regions. Is it transparent and accountable when it comes to political bias and objectivity?
Well, Chris, actually, only last week we actually made a complaint against the 7:30 report. They did an interview with me. Sarah Ferguson interviewed me, but before that they did an interview implying that the page research that was undertaken for us to get to our net zero position was influenced by Coal Australia. In fact, there were 166 references in the work that Page Research put together. It was but one and confirmed a report that Page had done in terms of the pricing mechanisms of coal-fired power stations. It didn't go to the heart of any recommendations. We also made a complaint that they used a man by the name of Matt Keane as the former New South Wales Treasurer to call out the hypocrisy of the National Party and the Page Research in particular using Coal Australia, even though it was one of 166, but did not disclose that Matt Keane, in fact, is a director of Woolamai Investments, which, in lo and behold, looks at renewable energy. They didn't actually disclose that he, in fact, not only is a director, but he's in charge of their fundraising. We made that complaint to 7:30, and all we got back was that they felt that it was used wisely and that they were incorrect in not disclosing Matt Keane's full roles as a director and fundraiser for Woolamai Investments. And that is the level of integrity that we are facing with the ABC.
So that's a problem. It's got to change. Of course, climate and energy policy is one of the key areas where they show relentless bias and misleading information. I want to get on to that, though, now, because you'll be waiting to see what the Liberals do with net zero on Wednesday. In the meantime, we've heard from the Prime Minister today, and over the weekend actually, where he's been asked about these power bill rebates that go to the big energy companies to try and keep our power bills down. He's suggesting that they might be extended. Here's the Prime Minister.
Well, I've said that the rebates won't be a permanent feature. We'll always look, though, at cost of living as our number one priority. We're also working on making sure that the budget's got into shape. So it's a matter of getting that balance right.
David Littleproud, that's using our tax dollars to cover up for his mistake. He's supposed to lower power prices.
Well, they're meant to be lower by $275 this year, predicated on your 2022 price. That hasn't happened. In fact, they've gone up by over $800. But you've got to understand, you've already spent over $6 billion in subsidies from the Australian and state taxpayers, forking out to try and bring down your energy bills. What we are doing is seeing a Labor government caught up in the ideology rather than the practical reality of fixing the fundamentals. You cannot run an economy of the industrial scale the size of Australia and all renewables approach. Portugal and Spain had a red-hot crack. They got to 77%. Yes. They lost their entire grid. The reality is that economics is catching up with you. You're seeing that in your energy bill every quarter. The good people at Tomago are feeling that tonight, not having job security. That's on top of Whyalla, Port Pirie, Hobart and Mount Isa. The reality is this is coming to bite us. And unless we're prepared to pivot, Australians are going to continue to pay more. And unfortunately what happens, Chris, is you can continue to try and paper over the cracks with using your money, but ultimately your money runs out.
Yep.
And this is why, unless we fix the fundamentals and have a mixed grid and have the courage to say we need to bring nuclear energy into the grid, and we can do that. And if you look at our plan around a cheaper, better, fairer way, what we're saying is you could extend the capacity investment scheme, not just to renewables, but to existing coal generation, so that we bring on more supply and keep more supply onto the grid. That'll put downward pressure on prices. That would be a big step in the right direction in terms of doing that and buying time to be able to sweat out those coal-fired power assets and transition into nuclear energy as we move forward. That's the common sense solution the Nationals have brought forward.
It only makes sense.
It doesn't go to this mad $9 trillion net zero plan that Labor's going down, and it's going to cost you and each Australian over $300,000 each.
It all makes sense, as we've been talking about on this program for years now. Thanks for joining us, David. I appreciate it. David Littleproud there, the Nationals leader.